This RSBANDB Update Nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update 737, questioning everything. Enjoy. Next question's from Mod Porky, who says, what are your thoughts on clue scroll caskets or boss loot streams, and how could we make it more interesting? Interesting and timely question, given there was one of those streams this week.
Yeah, there was. So, this was actually kind of a hard question for me. But we talked a little bit in pre-show about drop rates, and I think that is the direction that that's something that would make it really interesting. Would be to maybe do 1,000, opening 1,000 at a time, and then seeing how close you are to what the drop rates
the expected value is.
Yeah.
And the reason for it is because it's easier to convey on a stream of out of 1,000 compared to out of 5,000, just because it's an easier number to handle in your head.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that's just kind of fun, because then you see like it, you kind of just, you get to watch someone else either suffer or celebrate from their RNG, and it's not you.
Oh, and you don't need to run around the world that many times to do it as well. But for me on this one, I agree with you on the RNG aspect of it, because there are players out there who are going to be skeptical of drop rates when they're posted, right? And doing these streams is a confirmation that the drop rates are indeed somewhat close to what they're documented as, and any variance on that, it's just going to be RNG coming into play, right? So it's good to do from that perspective. You know what I would find really interesting in terms of doing this, and I say this as a math nerd, is that you could say that, oh, if you open 300 of these, you're likely to have this amount of chance to get that, and obviously that is me. That is me talking, who would find that very interesting and entertaining. I doubt anyone else out there would find that interesting and entertaining. So feel free to ignore that. But beyond that, I think something interesting to talk about on these streams would be to have somebody like Mod Timbo on, who is in charge of balancing on this. And, when you get, say, a die or something like a second age piece, you'd be able to say, okay, this is what this actual drop rate is supposed to be. We got it at an opening X, or we got this on drop X if it's from an NPC. And this is why we chose it to have this drop rate. We wanted it to have this drop rate because of a certain reason, or we want it to be this rare or that rare or something to that effect. And failing that, you could also potentially talk about with this how drop rates are formed in terms of, how do we come up with, for example, 1 out of 128, I think it was for something, or 1 out of 50 for the totem pieces on Big Game Hunter. I think that would be interesting to hear, is a bit about why the drop rates are and how they came to be.
That actually would be really, really interesting. The only other thing that I can add, and I understand that this kind of has to happen organically, like you can't force this or script it, but I love watching the interaction of JMods on the stream, like when it's just that banter back and forth, when they're joking around with each other. I really enjoy that.
It's kind of like a mini RSBANDB update. That would be neat to see.
Yeah. And you kind of feel like you're getting to see more of them, more of the person, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that would be fun with this is that, granted, with the amount of people in that Twitch chat, it would be hard for the JMods who are opening the boss drops or the clue scroll caskets to curate questions. But, you could just answer it into a general kind of question Q&A, providing the questions aren't too hard, so to speak. Make it not questions that would need somebody like a Mod Osborne to answer, that are very high level and, directional specific. But, hey, kind of like these questions that we had on the show personally. And, you would have to say that, if we asked Mod Porky what is a piece of content you'd like to see expanded on in game, he would answer that with the caveat that, this is something that me personally would like to see it. I make no guarantee of this happening, but this is blank. That would be a question that you could entertain. These kind of questions I think would be fun to entertain on these live streams while doing it, because I think it is monotonous to open 1,000 or 5,000 caskets without having much else to say about it. So I think we got some good suggestions in there for that one. So I'm pleased with that. Anything else?
Just keep up the good work.
Indeed. You can watch full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. You can also listen to audio versions of RSBANDB Update at update.rsbnb.com, and feel free to subscribe to our show and any number of podcast listeners out there at update.rsbnb.com/subscribe.